Hello, Simona. Hello to everyone. Today is a wonderful and celebratory day because we are speaking on a very important topic. And I would like to thank the previous speakers and the discussion participants for a very inspiring discussion. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to continue with the topic because my theme of emotional awareness is linked with what we've been talking about. Can you see my slides? Yes? Thank you very much. Thank you. So, emotional awareness, how important it is while developing physical literacy. Previous speakers and panelists said that during physical education, pupils experience a lot of emotions. Emotions describe their experience in lessons, affect their motivation and achievements and involvement. And I often ask teachers, adults, please remember yourself. How would you feel during PE lessons? What emotions would you experience before the lesson, during the lesson, after the lesson? And indeed, a lot of teachers admitted that they felt fear that they will fail, and also shame if they would fail, and also guilt. And they say that it sometimes would happen that, yes, I would rehearse the jump, but then afterwards, I did not want to jump ever again in my life. Or I ran as much as I could, but I don't want to run anymore. And too little research is devoted to PE lessons and to emotions experienced during these lessons. Emotions can give parents and educators the tool to understand their experiences. Previous speakers said that, well, what about experiences? We have plans and strategies and marks and grades, but what about pupils' experiences, about their personal experience, and how aware are we of that? We see that with more positive emotions, achievements and involvement increase. Indeed, PE lessons are a unique academic thing that has a direct link with the children's future health. In our hands, we have people's future health. And indeed, will they choose to be active in life? It all depends on the childhood experiences. We can see that the grades do not include the long-term learning component. They do not, for example, I've always had a 10 from PE, but would I really be active in life? Would I indeed choose beneficial behavior health-wise? The research of emotional experience of pupils could be important in interpreting PE results. The understanding positive and negative emotions helps find links with physical activity and involvement in the future. Joy and satisfaction, pleasant emotions, are a bridge to future physical activities, whereas fear and disappointment are a barrier. Indeed, it is important that we talk about how to be active in PE lessons, how to be active at school, both physically and emotionally. But equally important is what we do after school, what lifestyle we choose as grown-ups. And now we are talking about how important it is that the activity is pleasant in order for the child to choose voluntarily to be active in life. let's observe children. When do they want to move? When they feel good, when they observe something interested, when they are sure of themselves, then they want to dance, jump, move, and run. And naturally, when people experience positive emotions, they want to move. Whereas people who experience negative emotions, how do they behave? A small child, he wants to sit down or lie down, clothes down, shoulders down, and they don't want to move. On the other hand, movement is a very good emotional regulation. First of all, I'd like to tell you a story about an elephant. A small girl had an elephant, but she failed to train him. He would not listen to her. And one day she met an old wise man who was known around the country as the best trainer of elephants. And she asked him, "How did you manage to become the best elephant trainer in the country?" And he started to think and asked her, "And what did you do with your elephant?" "Well, everything. I would give him a banana when he listened to me, but as soon as he ate the banana, he would go away. And then I would get so angry, I would stomp my feet and shout. But one day he nearly trampled me himself. I was very scared." "Okay," the old wise man said. Didn't you try listening in to your elephant, trying to understand what what makes him happy, what makes him sad?" And the girl came back home and she thought to herself, "I never really came to think about that. I thought that this is only an animal." And she started listening in to her elephant. And then a beautiful friendship started. She started understanding when the elephant was sad, when he was happy. And this is a nice parallel with emotional awareness. We are the only living creatures that are creative. No other living creature has that. Just take a look how much we have created, how progressive we are, and what our brains are capable of. But at the same time, the brain also is our enemy, because we manage to come up with various fears and scenarios that probably will never happen. And emotional awareness is when we focus our logical thinking to information, namely the information sent by emotions. So equally as we're learning the multiplication table and mathematics, we can start learning about emotions. And this information is very important. It helps us, first of all, to take decisions that are favorable to ourselves, and secondly, to take decisions that would be favorable to our environment and relationships. Why is it so difficult? And people would say, when I ask, "How do you feel?" I often ask this question, "How do you feel?" And often the answers are good, bad, normal. 85% say that. And when I ask what means good, bad, or normal, because there is no information in these kinds of replies. And I would like to draw your attention to the fact that we are not sensitive to ourselves. As the previous speaker said, this should be as teeth brushing as our movement rituals. Emotions, the awareness about the emotions we experience should become our daily life. So good, bad, or normal is the first level of emotional awareness. And ask yourself, how have I answered? How am I feeling? There are 5 levels, so let's take a look at the levels of emotional awareness. First of all, we have physical bodily sensations. If I find it hard to name my emotions, Right now, pay attention to what you're feeling in your body. Maybe I'm still shaking a little bit in my hands. Maybe my palms are sweating somewhat. But indeed, I feel rising motivation because I speak about things that are important to me. And when I understand, I am aware of the motivation, I feel rising energy, I feel how my mouth starts to smile. The third level is our emotional and spiritual sensations. And here we can use creativity. Just think, what would be your emotion, your reaction to a landscape? For example, I am imagining a big lake in front of my eyes. And just after the rain, the lake is still rippling. The day is bright and the sun is about to come out. And as soon as we begin to think about our emotion, it is easy to picture an image in our head because emotions are very greatly linked with our creativity. So what would be your natural landscape? How do you feel at this very moment? You can even write it down if you can. And maybe afterwards, Simona can briefly share the emotions and the images. So emotions are very important also for us to feel each other. So if you are already able to name specific emotions, it's, well, indeed, there are not so many main emotions. Others are derivative emotions. But at the same time, we can feel 2, 3, 5 emotions, and they can be mixed as a fruit cocktail. And it might be difficult to distinguish them, or it may be that they are very opposite, and we still feel them at the same time, but they never mix, like oil and water, for example, love and anger. The fifth and the highest level of emotional awareness, if you're already able to identify specific emotions you are experiencing, not only of your own but of the surrounding people, that means that you have strong empathy, like that girl with the elephant. So do teachers listen in to the children's emotions? Because if we're talking about healthy living and movement and active lifestyle, about healthier diet choices, choosing water over juice, this is life, ongoing everyday life, not only during lessons, not only at school. We all are living, we're listening to our children, and we are the examples. And if we are the example, are we really the examples? Do we notice things? Do we feel empathy? Do we listen in to our children? This is a point for reflection about your current emotional status. Just stop for a moment and record it. Let me share another wonderful tool. What do you think this is? Very briefly. Just want to activate you to make you play with emotions. Is this a museum? Is this a library? This is a university. I had a chance to listen to a lecture from this university's professor. This is Mark Brackett himself, who is one of the leading researchers in emotional intelligence. He's from Yale University. He's the director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. He said that our university is the best in the world. And that was the beginning of his presentation. And if his university is the university that has the highest number of Nobel Prize winners, then it's probably good to say that this university is best in academic terms. But Marx says, so what? Have you ever thought about how those Nobel Prize winners feel? We have terrible competition. We don't nurture our relations. We don't think about culture. We're just thinking about results. And the Emotional Intelligence Center, established 10 years ago in this university, was devoted for the development of emotional intelligence. And Marx says here that we must figure out how to create school environments, curricula, and other related tools to help students to feel more positive emotions. And not only students, but also teachers and the administration and the management, because as we saw before in the research, when we discussed the research, they play the key role in our motivation, achievements, and involvement. So what is emotion? If we translate from Latin, move means to move. This means energy. That means that when we feel emotions, we are alive. When we sleep, we also feel emotions. Sometimes in our dreams, we could cry a lot and wake up even with red eyes, or laugh aloud. It happens to children. And emotions are a combination of physical sensations, thoughts, and emotions. Per hour, we experience 30 emotions, and per day up to 300, 500. And of course, if we live through that many emotions, we feel like after a roller coaster. If you, at the end of the day, if you feel very exhausted and tired, that means you've lived a lot of emotions. This was the energy that was taken from you or given to you, generated by the emotions. Robert Plutchik identified 8 key emotions. As I said, anger, fear, sadness, joy, disgust, amazement, curiosity, and hope. Maybe now you can recognize if you feel several of or one of these emotions, but not necessarily maybe you feel any of the derivative emotions. So now let us make an experiment. Let's see how many emotions you can guess. What do you think this boy feels? Or maybe a girl, this little baby. What emotion is this? Sadness. It is sadness. Sometimes they say fear or unhappiness, and these emotions are somewhat related, but this one has been specified as sadness. A frown, eyes full of tears, and what is about this emotion? Raised eyebrows, open mouth. Probably he saw something, and this is fear. Some say it might be amazement. Well, could be, but if he was amazed, surprised, he was also afraid, angry, afraid. What is this? A frown again. What is this? This is disgust, exactly. Every emotion has its own task. It's important to us. There are no good or bad emotions or forbidden emotions. In other words, all emotions are legal and all feelings are legal. How do we feel? How do we act upon our emotions, or how we are taught to act? This is another question. And that's why we have to learn to regulate them. But the key message is that all emotions are legal. If we feel them, they are there. And to tell someone, don't be sad or don't be angry, it will pass. This is the worst thing that a teacher or a parent could do while reflecting the child's feelings. Because what happens then? The child who is experiencing sadness, when they are told that don't cry, well, maybe I will stop crying and maybe I will put on a smile, but I will suppress an emotion. And a suppressed emotion becomes more intensive, and sadness may turn into anger. We'll see soon in the scales how emotions are moving, and the intensity it becomes explosive. We are suppressing the emotion at one place, but it explodes somewhere else. We don't understand what happens that the child gets into a tantrum. And also when we come back after a hard work's day and we've been restricting ourselves, but we see a misplaced pair of shoes and we explode with anger. When we don't live out our emotions, they intensify, increase, and then explode.
And they experience various disabilities and traumas and diseases. What kind of emotion is that? We see so much energy, and this emotion grants us a lot of energy. And of course, this is anger. You see fists tight, the forehead frowning, the open mouth, which means that I try to direct all of my energy somewhere. What will happen if I suppress my anger? That means the barrier inside. That's why it's so important to teach children to overcome anger. We do not teach them to do that. Today we speak a lot about healthy movement, but in the same way we should be speaking about relaxation, healthy relaxation. Nobody has trained to do us, and if we do not have the choice, people revert to alcohol, smoking, and so on. This is the same relaxation. Why should we not start developing that among children, not only in the capital but also in districts and villages? Why not teach them meditational methodologies, deep breathing, meditation, stretch methodologies? Why not establish spaces for children? There are so many unused spaces at school, and there are fantastic opportunities where people do not need huge resources, which can be used. And this emotion is what kind of emotion? She radiates. She knows that everything will be fine. She wants to move and she wants to sing. This is joy. The emotion which we are aspiring for if we are speaking about active and joyful, positive life. You probably know this cartoon. This is a very nice training tool. You can watch that with your family, because this is in anger, joy, disgust, sadness, and so on. All those emotions operate in the cartoon, and you know that the 5 characters cannot do without them, without each other. Every individual has these emotions, and in everybody's mind, these emotions are there. Everybody experiences the emotions, and if we lose one emotion, what will happen? Therefore, it is so important that you have them and learn to control them. How do emotions affect the body? Over 700 respondents participated in this research, and they had to express the various emotions and methodologies, and we see that number 1 is anxiety, number 2 is love, depression, which is really dark. That is the one that has the least level of energy, contempt, pride, and shame. And we are moving towards colors now. and I will finish this presentation with a 64 emotional tools measurer, that is emometer. And of course, emotions affect our behavior and choices. And this is a sudden stimulus, external or internal, that turns into an emotion. In a millisecond, try to pinch yourself and you will see what a millisecond is. You would feel differently when somebody pinches you from the back because you will not understand what is happening. You have to turn back and see, generate ideas, and your ideas get developed in seconds, while emotions in milliseconds. Like the emotion is already there, but you still do not realize that it is there. So actually the time between the emotion and my choice has to be used reasonably. How do we regulate them? Dr. Mark Brackett says that there are 5 stages. The first, you have to recognize. Second, that is, you have to recognize that you have feelings, emotions, that you are feeling something. You have to understand what you feel now. And let's try and use the 5 steps. What about the physical body? If that's the natural phenomenon, if that's food or a dish or an animal, we have to reflect, right, the emotion. This is the regulation. Maybe I should choose the correct words and it will be easier for me to speak with the surrounding people. That is, we have to choose the behavior pattern and then regulate. So how does the emometer work? This is one scale according to Mark Brackett, according to his theory. This is our energy. To what extent the emotion generates the energy. And then we have to ask ourselves, to what extent is it pleasant or unpleasant for us? And if I have lots of energy, and if the energy is not pleasant for me, what kind of emotion is it going to be? Anger and related emotions. If I have little energy and this energy is not pleasant for me, that is sadness and related emotions. If I have a lot of energy and it's pleasant, it's joy and related emotions. And finally, if I have little energy and it is pleasant, it must be relaxation and calmness and the related emotions. Okay, now, a few creative pictures. Just spontaneously, what emotions do you get? Here, here, or here. And this is my final slide. Each of you, for a minute, have a look and choose at least 4 emotions which you feel at the moment. And I will turn the power on my laptop in that minute.
Būna ir taip, pamirštam įsijungti pakrovėją, bet laiku pastebėjau. Taigi.
Okay, so I have turned the power on to my computer. Now, please name yourselves your 4 emotions. I feel fun. I feel agile, proud towards the end of this presentation because you have participated and listened to me and elevated. Well, my emotions come from yellow and green squares. I hope that you can find your emotional words and mention the 4 emotions that you can feel now. And I would like to mention, to wish you further nice conference and hope to see you later. Thank you, Irma. I started putting down my own emotions so that I don't forget them. Well, this presentation has been very interesting and visually attractive, very easy and pleasant for me. And I would call it emotionally intellectual. If the emotion is energy, as you call it, if it looks like you were transmitting that energy remotely via the screens, and I believe that the participants have felt that too. My emotion is I am excited and elevated and inspired, which means that I am at the very top with lots of energy and positive aspects. What about choosing the colors of your clothes? Does it have any relation to energy? Simona, this is a very good question. Very often we choose our attire based on our mood. And it doesn't matter that if I have chosen red, that means that I am angry. We are all so different, but I actually wanted to show you the expressive pictures with the various colors. Some participants feel fear when seeing a stimulus, another one get relaxed. And of course, we differently accept the stimulus. And of course, this is reflected in our environment and at home. And of course, we can understand that the yellow and the green colors are the colors of the positive aspects and life. And they are not somber. And of course, probably everybody knows that the emotional intellect is one of the largest competences, not only for children. And I have heard that many times, but I can state that you radiate your energy, you inspire everybody, and you show by your own example the intellectual competence, because I always try to be positive and sometimes too positive, and that sometimes irritates people around me, and that I always smile, because I always smile. And there are certain experts who state that the positive axis should not be hyperbolized, especially in the training processes. We should understand that in life we should experience various emotions, and not necessarily pleasant or unpleasant moments. Which emotions help you best develop the physical literacy, because we are speaking about that today? Well, sometimes we get confused. We think that the positive person is the one who always smiles and will not say a bad word. But today we have the concepts of positive development. This is related to authenticity and feeling the real emotion and the consciousness, but also about the choice of a certain behavior which should not be destructive for themselves and the environment. We need to turn on our smiles, and we should not say no at any time, because we often become destructive for ourselves and the surroundings, which is not good. And there's no single emotion that would help become more emotionally literal. And all the emotions are genuine, but are we open about them to ourselves, and do we help ourselves feel that? Do we help allow the others feel that? Or can we accept somebody else's anger without trying to change that or suppress the anger, because this is the reflection of what we need most. So first we need to reflect the genuine emotion, and we have to be the examples which would help children get angry constructively without destroying the environment. And what is the main message when I am sad? Sometimes, well, you just need the time for sadness and for experiencing the loss, no matter if this is a toy or a loved one. And if somebody experiences joy, they should be allowed to experience it, the genuine emotion. And of course, empathy comes hand in hand all the time, right? I have a few questions to the participants, from the participants. One question is related to the fact that it seems like that during physical activity, our emotions become more activated. Sometimes this is agony, sometimes this is joy. And the fact is that our emotional background becomes more active. So do we need to contain our emotions during doing sports or exercising? And if so, how? If we are speaking about suppressing or controlling emotions, this should not be controlled. If we speak about regulating them, well, in that case, if we are within sports or active activities in life, or if we are active during our school breaks, or if we are having an argument, we should always think about the fact that we are only human, and at that moment maybe I'm very angry, but I have to be speaking and to be able to speak. And when children come to the kindergarten from the environment, you can see that in the family of the child there were emotionally strong or not strong parents, and the same is applicable to animal life. If one child one hits back, then that's not right. They should say, I don't like it, and you should listen to me. And the sportsmen, the athletes, highest level athletes, basketball players and others, they actually differ from the winners by 1 millimeter. That is their emotional intellect, how they are able to manage stress and relax their brain. And there are fantastical surveys showing that when they meditate for 15 or 20 minutes and afterwards, they are able to achieve the best results. And then I have a practical question. The class time is not enough to feel the emotions of each and every child. What should teachers do? First of all, you have to contain your own emotions. Sometimes we come angry, and sometimes we raise this question, can teachers be angry in classes? Why not? Because this is life, we have to look into ourselves first, and empathy starts with empathizing with ourselves. And if you come and show that you are angry, but you can constructively regulate, contain your anger, children will learn from you. Children will observe the society, they will observe the people whom they follow on social networks, and they will learn. And if you are delighted, show that, tell everybody about that, give examples. And this doesn't require lots of time. We can do that all the time through teaching mathematics or teaching physical training. Thank you, Irma, for a very interesting presentation, for the conversation, and for reconfirming once again that if you want to change the world, you first have to work with yourself. And first, we need to look into at our children, because they notice our emotions too. Overall success. Have a nice day, and I hope that many people will listen to you and hear you and start applying that.